You did not arrive at this exact moment by accident. This encounter is not a random collision of signals in the vastness of the void. You are here, listening to these words, because a deep, unseen geometry within your consciousness has simply exhausted itself. It has grown deeply tired of tracing the exact same invisible circles. You have reached the absolute edge of a frequency loop you once mistook for a linear path. We have all been conditioned to believe in the grand illusion of time, the comforting yet empty myth that simply allowing the hours and days to pass will organically carry us into a different, brighter horizon. But time, in its purest quantum nature, is merely a blank canvas. It does not dictate what is painted upon it. It only passively reflects the energetic brushstrokes of your current state of being. Many wander through life convinced they are walking toward tomorrow, when in truth, they are merely living a disguised version of the past, reacting to the present through the exact same ancient filters. Notice the air moving quietly through your lungs right now. Draw in a slow, deliberate breath, and as you release it into the silence of the room, allow the heavy, chaotic momentum of yesterday to settle completely. Feel the profound stillness of this singular fraction of a second, entirely detached from what happened before. In this quiet, unmoving space, observe the subtle ways your own mind instinctively attempts to pull you backward, whispering that your future must inevitably be built from the fractured memories of your history. The grand, silent truth is that a vast, entirely new reality is already vibrating around you, hovering seamlessly in the zero-point field of infinite potential. Yet, the universe operates on the strict, unyielding laws of energetic coherence. It is infinitely patient, yet absolutely precise. This new dimension of existence is already waiting, fully formed, but it fundamentally refuses to invite you in so long as you insist on recreating the exact same echoes of who you used to be. To understand why we remain entirely locked outside of this new vibration, we must first examine the invisible barriers we keep trying to push through. Imagine for a moment that the boundary between the life you have known and the expansive existence waiting for you is not a vast ocean or a towering wall, but simply an invisible door. This door stands right before you, entirely imperceptible to the physical senses, yet undeniable to the intuitive core of your being. It separates the dense, repetitive frequencies of everything you have already experienced from the weightless, infinite potential of the zero-point field. Most individuals spend their entire lives standing before this threshold, desperately trying to turn a handle that does not exist in the three-dimensional space. We push, we pull, we attempt to force our way through the unseen barrier using the sheer exhausting momentum of human struggle. We carry heavy iron rings laden with old keys, convinced that if we just try hard enough, if we just push one more rusted key into the invisible lock, the pathway will finally clear. These old keys are the crystallized fragments of your former self. They are the defense mechanisms you forged in moments of profound vulnerability, the intricate shields of logic your mind created to survive the turbulence of a chaotic world, and the deep-seated sorrow you have unconsciously worn as a badge of honor. Here is where the deeply conditioned analytical mind, the grand illusionist of the ego, plays its most convincing trick. The ego whispers, with absolute certainty, that suffering is a currency. It convinces you that the universe keeps a ledger of your pain, and that if you can just show how much you have endured, how intensely you have fought the shadows, the door will open out of cosmic pity. The mind insists that struggle equals worthiness, and that crossing into a higher timeline requires forceful, relentless action. This is the ultimate deception of the third-dimensional construct. It keeps you trapped in a perpetual loop of striving, forever trying to pick a quantum lock with the dense, heavy tools of a reality you are trying to leave behind. But the architecture of the cosmos doesn't operate on the density of human effort or the accumulation of past grievances. The lock on this invisible door is purely energetic. It possesses no mechanical parts to force and no emotional judge to persuade. It is a precise vibrational mechanism, calibrated exclusively to the frequency of absolute release. It cannot be battered down by desperation, nor can it be bargained with through the presentation of your historical wounds. The universe does not reward the frantic grasping of the old self. It responds only to the quiet, undeniable resonance of who you are becoming in the emptiness of the present moment. The profound revelation is that this door has never been locked against you. It is simply waiting for a shift in your internal atmospheric pressure. It is designed to slide open in complete silence, without a single spark of friction. In the exact, unmeasurable millisecond, the universe registers a specific event. The sound of your old keys dropping to the floor. The moment you truly let go of the need to protect the identity built by yesterday, the frequency of your consciousness changes. You cease to be the warrior fighting the threshold and become the vibration of the space beyond it. As long as you tightly clutch the heavy, jagged metallic edges of who you used to be, your hands are too full to receive the subtle, weightless geometry of the new reality. To step through, you must be willing to arrive empty-handed, trusting that the unknown is not a void to be feared, but a canvas waiting for a mind entirely free of the past. It is only when the old weapons are abandoned that the environment begins to subtly test the authenticity of your empty hands. When you finally allow those heavy, rusted keys of your past identity to slip from your grasp, a fascinating phenomenon occurs within the quantum field. You might expect the immediate, miraculous materialization of a serene and entirely new reality. But often, what manifests in the immediate aftermath is a localized echo of the past. You suddenly find yourself face to face with the same discordant frequencies, the same gravitational pulls of heavy dynamics, and the same exhausting cycles of emotional turbulence you thought you had just left behind. The analytical mind, desperate to maintain its familiar identity as a victim of a chaotic world, immediately perceives this repetition as a curse. It interprets these returning shadows as undeniable proof of cosmic punishment, a streak of insurmountable misfortune, or a tragic flaw in your own energetic blueprint. It looks at the recurring storms, notes the familiar patterns of energetic drain or collapse, and defensively concludes that the future is just as broken as the past. But we must elevate our perspective far beyond the narrow, judgmental lens of the three-dimensional ego. In the vast, intelligent architecture of the unseen realms, there is absolutely no concept of punishment, nor is there any concept of random luck. There is only resonance, reflection, and the precise mechanics of evolution. The universe operates as an incredibly efficient holographic projector, and it will purposefully project the exact same energetic scenario into your immediate field of awareness over and over again. It will meticulously reassemble the exact same foundational challenge, dressing it in different holographic textures, new faces, different geographical coordinates, entirely new illusions of conflict, but always carrying the exact same underlying vibrational signature. This repetition is not a malicious trapping mechanism designed to keep you small. It is a profound, silent question asked by the very fabric of reality itself. Whenever the familiar turbulence arrives at your door, the universe is essentially pausing the spin of your reality, looking directly into the deepest core of your consciousness and asking, will you react with the exact same contraction of fear you used yesterday? Will you deploy the same desperate defense mechanisms, or will you choose to observe this illusion differently today? It is actively testing the structural integrity of your new vibration. It is waiting to see if your detachment is merely a philosophical concept in your mind, or if it has truly become the new baseline frequency of your being. The continuous loop of hardship dissolves into absolute nothingness, not when the external projection magically decides to behave, but in the exact fraction of a second you change your internal response to it. You step out of the dense, exhausting role of the victim navigating a hostile dimension, and you assume your rightful position as the sovereign architect of your own experience. Every recurring shadow is not a setback. It is a localized concentration of energy, offering you the supreme opportunity to prove to the cosmos that your internal geometry has permanently shifted. As you stand in this moment, observing the ancient patterns that keep circling your existence, waiting for you to react, if the very frequency that broke you yesterday is standing before you right now in a brilliant new disguise, will you give it the power to collapse your reality again, or will you finally remain completely, unshakably still? We have been deeply conditioned to believe that spiritual evolution and personal mastery are processes of accumulation. The illusion of the three-dimensional construct dictates that to reach a higher timeline, you must add more to your existence, More knowledge, more defensive tactics, more relentless speed, and more layers of intricate armor to protect yourself from future harm. But the architecture of higher consciousness operates on the exact opposite principle. The passport to your new reality does not require addition. It demands profound subtraction. The zero-point field cannot hold the dense gravity of everything you are currently carrying. Consider the identity you have built around your survival. For so many of us, the suffering of the past has quietly morphed into a familiar comfort zone. The ego clings desperately to old betrayals, recurring disappointments, and historical wounds because they provide a highly defined, albeit painful, sense of self. It feels perversely safe to be the wounded warrior, always on guard, always anticipating the next collapse. We use our past as a heavy iron shield, convinced it is keeping us safe, when in reality it is the exact anchor preventing us from rising into a new frequency. To receive the invitation from the universe, you must be willing to endure the terrifying vulnerability of dropping that shield entirely. Right now, as you listen to the cadence of these words, I invite you to perform a quiet internal scan. Bring your awareness to the physical weight resting upon your shoulders and the subtle tension held tightly within your chest. That is not just physiological fatigue, that is the energetic residue of holding on to who you used to be. I want you to take a slow, deliberate breath, and as you exhale, consciously command that invisible armor to unbuckle and fall away. Feel the profound subtraction of the need to defend yourself against a past that has already dissolved into the ether. If you can feel this sudden lightness, if you are truly in sync with this vibration of shedding the old self, I ask you to anchor your intention in the physical world right now. Leave a mark of our shared resonance below by writing the exact phrase, "I surrender the weight of my past." This is not a meaningless digital task. It is a silent, communal declaration that we are dropping our heavy garments together, witnessing one another's liberation. And if this space feels like the sanctuary your consciousness has been seeking, I warmly invite you to subscribe and align your daily frequency with ours as we continue to navigate these unseen dimensions together. This act of dropping the shield is the true essence of spiritual detachment. It is not about abandoning your humanity, it is the ultimate act of cosmic subtraction. It is the deliberate untying of the heavy ropes that tether your energetic body to a timeline of pain. When you release the desperate need for closure, when you stop demanding that the past make sense, you become energetically buoyant. The universe instantly recognizes this sudden absence of gravity. It registers that you are no longer vibrating with the dense frequency of defense and resentment. You have finally emptied your vessel, making expansive space for the extraordinary to flow in. Yet the moment you finally release this profound weight, when the chaotic noise of the old struggles abruptly fades into the background, you do not immediately arrive in a blinding flash of manifestation. Instead, you enter a phase that the survival mind fears more than any familiar pain. You step into a profound, unnerving stillness, a silent waiting room where the old has permanently shattered, but the new seed has not yet broken through the dark soil. When you finally release the heavy armor of your history, stepping into the space where the old structures have collapsed, you do not immediately arrive in a blinding flash of materialization. Instead, you enter a dimension that the survival-driven mind fears far more than any familiar pain. You step into a profound, unnerving stillness. This is the sacred waiting room of the cosmos, the silent void where the echoes of who you were have permanently faded, yet the vivid architecture of who you are becoming has not yet broken through the surface of reality. It is an expanse of absolute darkness, and it is precisely here that the most dangerous deception of your three-dimensional conditioning will attempt to pull you backward. Let us carefully examine this invisible trap, for the analytical ego is entirely terrified of the void. For years, your mind has been unknowingly addicted to the dense friction of struggle, constantly equating chaos with momentum and emotional turbulence with a sense of being alive. When you suddenly withdraw your energy from those exhausting cycles, the resulting silence feels deafening to a nervous system accustomed to war. The ego immediately scans this quiet horizon, finds no familiar conflicts to solve, and panics. It whispers a highly convincing illusion. It tells you that this stillness is actually stagnation. It tries to convince you that because nothing is visibly happening, The universe has somehow abandoned you in the dark. In this phase of profound transition, the mind will desperately tempt you to run back into the burning building of your past, simply because the flames provided a recognizable warmth. It will try to convince you that the chaotic, painful noise of yesterday is vastly superior to the mysterious, uncomfortable silence of your own healing. But you must understand the true quantum mechanics of the dark. The void is never empty. It is the zero-point field in its most concentrated, pregnant state. It is the raw, unshaped plasma of creation before the wave function collapses into a physical manifestation. Consider the hidden geometry of a seed buried deep within the dense earth. To the observer standing on the surface, looking only at the bare soil, nothing is happening. The environment appears static, lifeless, and entirely forgotten. Yet in the absolute darkness below, a miraculous transmutation is occurring. The seed is breaking open in the unseen, sending complex, invisible root systems deep into the unknown, anchoring itself to draw the immense energetic power required to eventually shatter the earth above. The absence of movement on the surface of your life is not a delay. It is the crucial period where the structural integrity of your new timeline is being quietly and powerfully secured. If you prematurely dig up the seed out of anxiety to check if it is growing, you instantly destroy the delicate forming roots. If you rush back to the familiar chaos of your old identity simply because the silence makes you uncomfortable, you abort the quantum manifestation just as it is gathering critical mass. The cosmos is asking for your absolute trust in the unseen. It requires you to sit in the center of the empty room and hold the frequency of peace without demanding immediate physical proof that the transformation is working. As you stand in this unfamiliar quiet, feeling the strange, vast emptiness where the heavy gravity of your past used to reside, listen closely to the profound absence of the old noise. When the frightened mind screams for you to return to what is familiar and broken, just to feel something recognizable again. Can you hold your ground in the dark, breathing slowly into the absolute unknown, and finally allow the silence to be enough? As you remain within this profound, unnerving stillness, an unavoidable and magnificent energetic shedding must occur. The architecture of your consciousness is undergoing a massive, irreversible recalibration. You must understand that the version of yourself constructed purely to survive the heavy gravity of your past is structurally incapable of sustaining the rarefied, weightless air of this new dimension of peace. The survival identity was a brilliant, necessary adaptation for a harsh and chaotic climate, but wearing a heavy armor of defense into a realm of absolute freedom will only cause you to sink. Therefore, the old self must be gently allowed to dissolve. During this profound transition, the analytical mind will almost certainly perceive the next phase as an aggressive dismantling of your world. You will likely notice that certain long-standing resonances, connections you once believed were permanent fixtures in your orbit, environments that previously offered a sense of comforting familiarity or even deeply ingrained desires that once directed the momentum of your days, suddenly begin to feel remarkably foreign, distant, and entirely hollow. The ego will immediately sound the alarm, screaming that you are losing everything. It will interpret this fading of familiar elements as a terrifying descent into isolation, desperately urging you to grip tighter to the shadows of what is slipping away. But you must realize that you are not being punished with isolation, nor is the universe aggressively tearing your world apart to cause you pain. What you are witnessing is simply the flawless, mathematical precision of quantum decoherence. The grand stage of your existence is being meticulously cleared. When your internal frequency finally breaks its old cycle, anything that was strictly tethered to the lower vibration of your ancient fears, your unhealed wounds, or your defensive postures can no longer mathematically attach to your energetic field. These things simply fall away into the ether because the invisible hooks that once held them in place no longer exist within your spiritual geometry. Softly shift your awareness to the physical space immediately surrounding your body in this exact moment. Do not focus on the solid, dense objects in the room, but rather feel the empty, silent air vibrating between them. Notice the immense vastness of the unseen space hovering just inches from your skin. As you breathe deeply into this emptiness, consciously give your nervous system permission to expand outward into it. Allow the heavy sensation of human loss to be gently replaced by the sheer expansive relief of finally having room to breathe. When a connection naturally dissolves, when an old, exhausting desire simply vanishes from your mind, visualize it not as a painful extraction, but as a dense, outdated piece of scenery being quietly rolled off the stage of your existence. You are not losing. You are intentionally accommodating a beautiful, expansive vacuum. The infinite intelligence of the cosmos operates on the immutable law of resonance. It cannot and fundamentally will not introduce the brilliant, weightless experiences of your new timeline into a space that remains heavily cluttered with the broken artifacts of who you used to be. The gentle departure of the old is not a tragedy. It is the ultimate, undeniable confirmation that your frequency has successfully shifted. Do not reach into the void to drag those fading echoes back into your orbit, just to soothe the ego's temporary fear of the unknown. Allow the great clearing to unfold with grace. Surrender completely to the absolute peace of an empty stage, trusting entirely that this vast emptiness you are currently resting within is the exact dimensional space required for your new reality to beautifully and finally take form. The vast unnerving silence you have been resting within is finally beginning to dissolve. You are no longer standing in the waiting room of the cosmos, desperately searching for a threshold you cannot see. Every single time, you consciously chose profound stillness over the chaotic, familiar reactions of your past. You provided the ultimate mathematical proof to the quantum field. You proved that the heavy, repetitive loop of your history has entirely lost its gravitational pull over your consciousness. The universe has perfectly registered this magnificent subtraction. The invisible door is no longer locked. It stands completely wide open. Your new reality is not some distant timeline you must endlessly travel toward. It is the exact, weightless dimension you are breathing into right now, manifesting seamlessly around the beautiful empty space you have so bravely created. If you have journeyed with me to the absolute end of this transmission, and you can feel the undeniable lightness of this new frequency anchoring within you, leave your final energetic signature below by writing, "The cycle ends here." Let this be our shared, silent declaration that the past no longer governs our reality. If this resonance feels like the sanctuary your mind has been seeking, click on one of the videos appearing on your screen right now to continue expanding your awareness into these unseen realms. And if you wish to support the continuous unfolding of this space and dive even deeper into our collective journey, consider becoming a channel member to access our exclusive, high-frequency content. The invitation has been delivered. The door is open. Step forward.